welcome back. It is Friday, which you know what this means. It is our favorite segment, at least one of our favorite segments here for Prize Picks. It's our Prize Picks Prediction Friday. We are so hyped. We're so excited. This is the game that we play as a staff. We talk about this all week long, our wins, our losses. But this one, we're going to make sure we have some wins. So listen, you guys, if you're not on Prize Picks, and everybody who I have told to get on Prize Picks has thanked me because they absolutely love it. They absolutely enjoy it. They have a 100% deposit match up to $100. You throw in $100, they give you a free $100. Free $100. So you got $200 to play with. You can't beat it. Really, if you're really smart, just try to use their money for you to make your own money. But make sure you use the promo code OrangeBloods and have it. We're going to talk about a little bit of the Prize Pick stuff, things that we like the most. But let's start talking about this matchup. We've got TCU coming in, guys. Coming into DKR is going to be a game day environment, excitement. Steve Sarkisian has spent the entire week, Jason and Alex, kind of trying to get the fans excited about, hey, make this into a really loud crowd. He talked about it on Monday. On his Thursday press conference, he talked about it again, about crowd. I really hope this crowd's into it. Like, he wants this thing to be loud. He wants that kind of intimidating atmosphere and environment. Jason, I'm going to start with you first. Because I don't think you went first last time. You deferred last week. Yes. But our things were a little bit similar. But give me your thoughts going into this game, and then go ahead and give me what your score prediction is.
Yeah, Sark has been calling on the crowd, and he keeps saying, like, DKR is turning into a great environment. And he's right. I think it's gotten a lot better. I mean, DKR hasn't always been the most intimidating place to play, but the students have done a good job. You know, they've been really rowdy. I mean, Alabama, big games this year, the crowd has shown up and responded well, and that will help. I mean, not just Texas, of course. All teams feed off of that, and maybe you can get some false start penalties or things like what happened to Texas last week. Maybe you can get that against TCU and put them in tougher down and distances. The game, Omar, I broke it down on paper, the matchups, and literally I break it down star advantages for each, and I've got it dead even on paper. I think both offenses are going to be able to move the ball. I think both offenses are going to put up points. I think the betting line, surprisingly, I haven't checked it today, but when I looked, it was 7. I think it was Texas -7, which that's a bit of a shocker. I mean, I get it. They're at home. TCU, listen, they're undefeated. I mean, they haven't always looked maybe like the number 4 team in the country, but you are what your record says you are, okay? So I think both teams are going to move the ball. Both teams are going to put up points. I think Texas is going to run the ball effectively. I think Quinn Ewers is going to hit on at least one of these big passes that everybody's questioning why he can't. But I think TCU is going to put points on the board too, and I think they're going to move the ball pretty effectively as well. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it comes down to the wire, Anwar. I've got Texas winning 33-31 on a last-second field goal. Bert Auburn, the hero at the wire. Texas 33, TCU 31.
Nice. All right. I like that 33-31 calling out your shot. Bert Auburn made field goal to pull off the win. All right. You will definitely rise up the mod rankings with that kind of prediction. Alex, what are your thoughts going into this one?
I think -7's too. I mean, I think it's too much, right? But then on the other side of the coin, as people have pointed out, if you look back over the course of Sark's time at Texas, not necessarily here recently, but over the course of his time here at Texas, if Texas is in close games, if you would have bet on Texas to lose in those close games over his career here, you'd probably be up. You'd probably be printing actually. With that said, look, I know that last week I said, and I wasn't here on the predictions thing last week, and I wish I was for the Prize Picks because my 3-pack of my 3 entry, that thing just absolutely smashed when I had the Quinn under receiving yards, Bijan over rushing yards, Deuce Vaughn over fantasy score that hit for that 3-way entry. But look, I said last week in the predictions that I'm doing Texas a favor and picking against Texas here because every time I do, they end up winning, right? And so I don't want to. Here's the thing: I kind of think Texas is going to win, right? And so I'm just going with my prediction that Texas wins, even though I hope I don't do the reverse jinx and everybody blames me for why didn't you pick them to lose? But I think it's going to be higher scoring than Jason thinks. I see it going up and down, up and down the field. Texas having to keep up, TCU having to keep up. TCU has the ability to make the big play, hit the big play. It's one of the most important things about their offense. Texas has their run game and their run blocking right now going at the highest level we've seen all season. Bijan's firing on all cylinders, and he's a big play waiting to happen. So I feel like this will go back and forth. I don't think Texas covers, but I think Texas wins 45-41.
Ooh, let me write this one down. You've got 45-41. Nice. All right. And Jason, what are your thoughts on that, by the way, when you hear that?
I could see it being that kind of track meet, but Quentin Johnson maybe not being available kind of tempers my enthusiasm for it being that kind of shootout. And I just have a hunch that Texas – I think both teams, again, are going to move the ball. I think both teams are going to score. But I think Texas will control TCU's big play ability to some degree, maybe better than some other teams have. So, yeah, that's a lot of points. You should go pound the more thing, because was it like 65 or something like that for the
something. And a lot of that has to do, maybe it's a little bit counterintuitive, but a lot of that just has to do with my, I know that Gary Patterson's not the defensive coordinator, but this is a special circumstance here where you have the ex-head coach of this team that knows that personnel so well. This is a consultant for your football team and one of the best football minds within your program at your complete disposal this week. So I think that's a big advantage for Texas. I think it's going to be a big storyline. You'll probably hear them talk about on the game day programs. And, as we talked about on the podcast yesterday, something that, we're probably going to hear talked about throughout the course of the game. It will be, sort of what they talked about during their production meetings about Gary Patterson's involvement. It's just, it's an interesting human storyline that, that they're going to be wanting to talk about, but I feel like it's an important one. And so, yeah, it's all week I've just been saying, man, how's Texas? I still see how Texas is favored by 7 versus a top 5 opponent, but I think they win. I think they win.
Alex, so it comes to me, and it's one of these things that there's any scenario you told me today, I can buy, right? If you tell me Texas wins and blows them out, I'd buy that. I can totally see that happening. If you tell me Texas wins a close one, as Jason's talking about, and wins by field goal, totally can see that. I can see all types of scenario from the TCU side as well. Just how explosive they are on offense. Not 100% sold on what their defense looks like. But they're going to score points for the most part. Like, barring some sort of injury to the quarterback, they're going to score points. Catch is not on the show, so I guess I got to fill in on the catch role. I got to be the one who's going to be a little skeptical, and also got to say to myself, well, I picked against them last week, and so why not keep that mojo going for Texas? And so I'll stay on.
Thank you. Thank you. So at least you're doing it, right? So at least you're doing
someone's got to do it, and someone's got to do the reverse jinx, right? So I'm going to go TCU 34, Texas 30. Is going to be we're going to lean towards. I'll go ahead and say that no matter the second half, until they solve it, it's unsolved. Until they prove they can close out of games like this, I'm not quite sure. So it's hard for me to give them the benefit of the doubt. But at the end of the day, I mean it's 100%. If you told me Texas wins this game 45-24, I wouldn't bat an eye, because I just think that it's within that realm. But for the reverse jinx purposes, I'm going to go ahead and say TCU 34-30.
If we're just doing this for reverse jinx purposes, can I just change mine to them losing?
Absolutely.
All right, reverse jinx. I'm going to switch it. TCU 45, Texas 41. I'm switching simply for the reverse jinx. Yeah, man. I don't want to get blamed for this on more. I don't want you don't always supposed to find a way to blame us. I don't want.
We will get blamed for
I
everything.
want none of that smoke, dude. That's gonna be a tough enough night on those boards if Texas loses anyway.
So yeah, just make sure you put that in your predictions when you write it on Orange Bloods. All right, listen. Listen, I think for the most part, we're all kind of in that 30ish range. So we're all kind of thinking about 60-something points.
No, man, I think 80-something.
Looking at Prize Picks, are we just taking the more on everything TCU Texas related?
I think the total will be like 80-something on more. I think track meet. So I haven't looked. I've been looking at there's one sneaky NFL more stack that I'll talk about after we're done with these picks. So let me pull up the Texas picks and you can
I think Xavier Worthy has a good game. So the 4.5 receptions is just always so appealing to me. And I'm like, I've been burned by it more than it's hit, but more than 4.5 on Xavier. I love, I'm surprised. So Quinn is at 260.5 passing yards. Max Duggan is at this exact same 260.5. I think I like Max Duggan more on that passing yards.
Oh yeah, me too. Mm-hmm. And do you know what I'm looking for here? And I know why it's not up. It's because we're still waiting on Quentin Johnson. What are the names of those other 2 wide receivers, Jason? If Quentin Johnson looks like he's going to be out, or they put up lines on, or they put up numbers on either.
They don't have any. Well, they got Kendry Miller, their running back.
Yeah, but what are their names?
Tay Barber is probably the main one. If there's going to be someone else, they'd probably put up Tay Barber.
So if they put up Tay Barber and we don't have news on Quentin Johnston yet, I'd probably, even if they do, even if we know that Johnston might play, but he might be a little bit banged up. Jason was talking about when he was writing his matchups and what he'd heard from those TCU folks is that, that's a guy that's very capable of kind of stepping up and taking over a bigger role. So if they put up something that looks a little bit deflated for that guy, I would say that I'd be interested in that one. But yeah, man, Duggan for sure. This, like I said, I think this game's going to be a track meet, and I think that definitely, it starts on the TCU side of the ball with the quarterback.
Yeah, the one thing I'd be careful on when it comes to Duggan, I like the passing yards. Surprisingly, I don't like the rushing yards. If you look at, because his rushing, they have him at 30.5. You think to yourself, oh, he's going to play. Like, this is automatic. But actually, if you look over the last 3, he played Kansas State. He had 13 rushing yards. West Virginia, he had 2. Texas Tech, he had 6. Okay?
He's not a natural runner the way people make him out. And he'll run if the opportunity is there. But I agree, Almar. He's not a guy that's going to automatically get 10 or 12 carries. He's not Lamar Jackson out there. I mean,
Correct.
I kind of agree with you. I kind of like the less on the rushing yards there.
And then here's the thing: if you get the sacks, and you expect the sacks to happen, then now you're talking about -6, -7. So now you're talking about having, get 14 plus, something to that effect. So if you think, the defensive line is going to be able to pressure them, then you like the less on that one. Is there anything else that moves
on the Texas side
for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, last week I was on the under for Quinn. I think this week I'm going to be on the over for Quinn Ewers. On the more for Quinn Ewers 260.5. I think that what do we have? What is JT Sanders over 4 receptions? Doesn't that feel good to you guys? At most, that feels like it would be a push, right? He's going to catch 4 footballs in this game.
He's only gone less than that against Iowa State. He had 3. He's gone 5, 5, 6, and 5. So 4 of his last 5 games, he's gone more than 4.
I like that for JT Sanders. I'm always feeling so snake bit and just a little bit worried about Xavier. I just feel like I can't ever get him right. But I think with Jatavion, the 4 receptions. The 4 receptions feels good. And then with Bijan, what is his fantasy? Bijan's fantasy score 24.5 more. I like more. I don't know how he's going to get there, whether he's going to be falling in the end zone a couple of times, whether it's going to be another one of these 150 plus yard rushing games with a reception or 2. In this format, you get 1 point per reception. Certainly, you get the 6 points for the touchdowns. So Bijan has the kind of game that I think that he's going to need to have to get to where my prediction is, to where both these teams score in the 40s. I think that Bijan's going to have to be a big part of that, certainly enough to rack up a 24.5-point fantasy score.
And the last thing, Alex, go ahead and give us that sneaky NFL pick that you were talking about.
Yeah, it's a little bit gross, but it's one that I've already put in that I like. And we talk all the time about how in daily fantasy we use stacks and we use correlation, right? And say like that the entry I put in last week with, I thought that Bijan was going to have a really big game, and so I correlated it with Quinn Ewers maybe not having as big of a passing game, right? Last week, one of my biggest hits was taking Tua Tagovailoa versus the Detroit Lions. But when I did, I said, well, if he's going to get to this over in his passing yards, so 265 or whatever, he's going to need Tyreek Hill to go over 85.5 receiving yards. And he's probably going to need Jalen Waddle to have over a 14-point fantasy score. And so when those things hit, it's like you get one thing right, you actually get three things right, And so, and if you pick 5 of them here on PrizePicks, that's a 10x payout. So if you bet $20 on it, you get $200 back, and now you're 3/5 of the way there, but you only need to get one thing right. So the one thing I think you can get right this week is if you look at NFL for the on fantasy scores, and it's in the game, the Jacksonville game versus Kansas City, one of the highest totals on the slate, 50-point total. They have Trevor Lawrence at a 15.5 fantasy score, and they have Christian Kirk at a 13.5 fantasy score. We're talking about a game that has a 50-point total here. Trevor Lawrence, over the course of the last 4 weeks, has beaten that fantasy score 3 of those times. Christian Kirk has been heating up over the course of the last few weeks. It's basically Kansas City's the best matchup that you can ask for if you're an opposing slot wide receiver. And on our proprietary matchup tool at rosterwatch.com, this for opposing quarterbacks is the number 7 matchup for opposing quarterbacks. So we would expect an over expectation performance for Trevor Lawrence. So if we think that Trevor Lawrence is going to get there, he'll bring Christian Kirk along with him, especially given the matchup, slot wide receivers versus Kansas City, 13.5 points in a PPR league for Christian Kirk whenever he goes to him on literally every single third down. I think that putting those two together is a great stack and a great correlation play for the weekend of NFL.
Nice. All right. Listen, we'll see what we did. Make sure you guys put your predictions, obviously, in the comments section. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what you're thinking, not only from a TCU score. Let us know what your prize picks are. Tell us what you think. So stuff you like, El Presidente, Tom G. I know you guys are out there watching you guys play it. Let us know. Blake obviously is playing too. Blake, you put your stuff in there as well. But for the whole crew, for the whole gang, we'll see. And hopefully the reverse jinx works. We have some more fun stuff to talk about. So we'll see you guys next week. And remember, one more time, PrizePicks, 100% deposit match up to $100. See you next week, guys. See ya.